everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song a Day Rock 2000 Day. Wishing you a very, very, very happy Tuesday this day, January 14th, for episode number 51. We're almost at that year way point through episodes. However, we've done some special edition ones, so I really don't even remember when the year would be. We'd be at the yearly point, but thanks for joining us today. Thank you for having us in your ears because, well, thank you for having me in your ears because I'm the only one here today. So you're getting another solo Kevin episode. And I got to tell you, there is a buttload of new music to go over. And I mean a buttload. From Apocalyptica's new album, Cello, which will be going into great detail throughout the whole entire thing. We also have new music from Silverstein, Breaking Benjamin, Anti-Flag, the girls at GFM, Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh, Hollywood Undead, and The Word Alive to really go into. And then I got something a little reflective for the end for everybody because it's something I really, really need to talk about. But before we jump into everything with that, let's go through the shameless plugs. Here in the shameless plug section, you guys know what would happen during this section. What would end up happening is, if I had sponsorship, which I have been getting on because I think I have sent sponsorship requests to about 15 or 20 different companies over the past couple of days. So we'll see if that comes through, if we can get some, some money out of that to really up the profile of this and to bring in some more sponsors as well. Maybe get some discount codes for you guys, the listeners. I put my leg up right here if you guys are watching the video because my leg is saucy. Well, no, that's weird. But for the My Song Day stuff, follow us on all of our platforms. So let's start with the Chord Progression Podcast. If you guys are listening to us right now, you're listening to us on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or you are watching the podcast video on YouTube as well. So if you just want to listen, those are the three places where you can listen. If you want to listen and watch, you can watch it on YouTube. Link in the description below for all of those. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So for our YouTube channel, you're going to find the album reviews that we do on there as well. I mean, here we're going to go into song by song in depth, but when we go through the album reviews on YouTube, we're going to have a little more concise. We're going to do them much differently, so you're getting a much different take on those. We also do some fun videos as well, like when we did the year-end awards for 2019. We'll do some top 10 lists. We'll do react things, where I'm just going to react to something. You never know what it's going to be, so be sure to subscribe to that as well. We put out new videos every single Wednesday. If we have multiple different albums to review in the same week, there'll be a Monday, Wednesday video, so you'll have two. And the podcast videos come out every single Tuesday to match the podcast. So you can follow that. Again, links for everything in the description below. Follow us on all our social media pages as well. So you can follow us on Facebook. Anytime anything gets released, that's where you go because you're going to know it is there. Twitter, you can do the same thing, but you're going to be able to talk to us on Twitter much better. That's kind of the platform. Tweet. Instagram is probably our biggest platform to date. So on Instagram, along with Facebook and Twitter, you can see and listen to the 30-second preview of the Song of the Day choice every single day. And on Instagram, we do a lot more than that. We also ask you guys questions on there and really get engaged with you, the fans. So we ask you questions like, okay, here's a band. What's their best album? Here are two bands. Which is your favorite in between the two and why? We'll ask you a question I think the one I asked on Friday was, who is the most, what band is the most polarizing band in rock and metal? Got some pictures like Gaskin Alexandria, Bring Me the Horizon, I had a couple other pixels I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But then we also do a couple other things on Instagram as well, where we do our Instagram live streams every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central, so you can jump into that with us. It's a 1-hour conversation where you guys just jump on, you send me questions about anything, mostly music, but then it always ends up diving into something completely different because you guys are the ones that essentially are running this whole entire live stream. So it's kind of whatever you guys want to talk about. And then our IGTV videos. Every Tuesday night, we release a new IGTV video that has a behind-the-scenes look at what we're doing here at My Song a Day Rock 2000 Day. It's like a video blog or a vlog, if you might say. You can also follow us on TikTok as well. I got to be better on that, but, that's where we're going to go with those. So follow us on all those platforms, and then also enable our Amazon skill. So that's where you can hear the whole entire Song of the Day feature for 24 hours. Then the next day you get a brand new Song of the Day choice. Now this is a great way to rediscover old artists, discover new music, and especially when it comes to our Small Band Saturday features, that's where you can get in with these smaller bands and really get to know them. So That's the place where you can listen to the whole entire song on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can listen to a 30-second preview, but that's where you can listen to the whole entire song from us, free of charge to you, because we don't charge for that crap. Why would we? Well, I mean, it's not crap, but we don't charge for that because why would we? You know, we're trying to grow the genre. It's not a pay-to-play thing. This is a, you know, we want to do this, so we're going to make this happen. And enough with the shameless plug. So let's jump into it, shall we? So, like I said earlier, this is going to be a chord progression podcast where the first one of 2020, where we just go into all of the music that we possibly can and really take a deep dive look into it. Because, yeah, there was a lot of music that got released this week, especially on Friday the 10th. Like I alluded to earlier, I said a lot of bands, but the most important, I think, one we had was the cello album, the 9th studio album from the Finnish symphonic metal band Apocalyptica. Now, again, giving you guys a little bit of background on Apocalyptica, for those of you who really don't know, this band was originally a Metallica classical tribute band back in the 1990s. So during the 90s when they first started and they became popular through this, they slowly started phasing that out, become more of this neoclassical symphonic metal band that they are really known for. They base, especially based off, you know, with the cellos. I mean, they're Apocalyptica, the album's called Cello. I mean, yeah, you're definitely going to get a lot of that. And if you guys have paid attention to Apocalyptica at any point throughout their time, you've seen that one thing they've been very prominent with, especially over the past like 15 years, it has been bringing in rock and metal vocalists to do vocal covers for their songs. So they're going to be the ones that are being featured on their songs. And a lot of them have been met with rather high praise. Take a look at Corey Taylor when he was featured on I'm Not Jesus. I think that was probably their most popular overall, especially with the fact that you have Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour. You're going to get a lot of fans to listen to that because it's Corey Taylor. My personal favorite was when Adam Gontier was featured on the song I Don't Care, because it literally sounded like 3 Days Grace. Like he wrote the whole entire thing, and Apocalyptica added the cellos. It was a great mixture overall. You had a couple other people of prominence really go in on this one. You had Joseph Dunplanter of Gojira featured on one song. You had Lacey Sturm featured on the song Broken Pieces. We all know Lacey Sturm, former lead singer of Flyleaf, former frontwoman of Flyleaf, who I think is still going to be doing something, some kind of like band collaboration with Ben Burnley of Breaking Benjamin. And you also have Brent Smith of Shinedown on the song Not Strong Enough. So they've really gone in, and a lot of times when they do that, they really do well with it, because a lot of people like these artists, a lot of people like these vocalists, they're going to want to listen. But cello, as they said, is going to be different than what the band has done in recent memory. According to Eka Tapanin, one of the members of Apocalyptica, they said the band was going to embrace their full instrumental roots. So no song was going to have that guest vocal feature. And they said that because they really didn't want to compromise the instrumentals just to try and fit in a vocal track on one or two songs. They really wanted to focus on everything that they were doing. And Eka ended up saying that the band was taking a chance on this album. They're making this album the one that they wanted to, with no expectations about how the fans were going to take it. So they weren't sure how the fans that really like Apocalyptica for the instrumentals that they work with were going to go and, you know, feel it and how they were going to take it. Or they weren't sure about how people like myself, who don't really listen to the band all that much, who aren't that big a fan of symphonic metal, but really do enjoy some of those vocal covers, especially for me, Adam Gontier and I Don't Care. So I was like, okay, you know, we'll see where this goes, because this is going to be a perfect one to start out with for my album reviews, because I don't really do anything with a lot of, you know, instrumental stuff. I just really don't, because that's really not my thing. But I thought Apocalyptica, especially with that Corey Taylor, I'm Not Jesus, Adam Gontier, I Don't Care, and the fact that I didn't know that they were not going to have any vocal covers up until right before listening to it and doing the review. So I'm like, okay. And Eka also said that the meaning of the album was like an environmental concept to give guidance to the listener through the instrumentation, that we all come from the same environmental system. So I thought, okay, now we kind of have an idea of what they're trying to really go for and really what they're trying to evoke. So let's dive into Cello by Apocalyptica. The first song on the album is one of the singles. It's called Ashes of the Modern World. Now, I remember first listening to this, I listened to it a couple of times, but then when I really started to do it and sit down for the review, because it was a single, I started doing this a couple days beforehand. And I remember right away, it just felt like there was this impending doom feel to the whole entire song. Ashes of the modern world. So and we're in the modern world right now. So is this a prediction thing? But you definitely could feel that impending doom. And this was brought into the fold with the deeper notes that the cellos hit, and they have this very gothic feel to them. And the pounding of the kettle drum that they use in here really does help. But now as the song gets further into it, now you can take a look at like the 130 mark. That impending doom feel really continues because the cellos even hit lower notes. But then there's also a mixture of this rapid guitar at times that really brings in more of that classic metal feel to it. It ends up breaking up the symphonic metal of it really, really nicely. Now, halfway through the song, it changes up. And I swear they took inspiration from Slayer, and specifically Raining Blood by Slayer, as they mix that symphonic metal style that they have with Slayer's thrash metal style, especially from Raining Blood. And this just continues to add to that impending doom feeling that's provided by the cellos. But the guitar, especially with how it sounds in comparison to Raining Blood and kind of making that comparison, it adds that more of a sense of urgency to the doom that's being felt in the song overall. Again, brought forward by the cellos. But in terms of Ben's environmental take on the album, mixing with that title, this kind of takes you on a journey through the doom that modern society is causing the environment in the minds of the artists. And it hits hard with that varying feel of doom where there's doom happening, but no one's paying attention to it. And now there's doom happening, and it's the sense of urgency is there, but maybe we're not able to do anything about it. Overall, taking a look at Ashes of the Modern World, I actually think they did a really, really good job on this song. This was our Song of the Day feature on the day of the album release. And the reason I picked them was because the instrumentation creates that total sense of doom and that mixture of, Raining Blood by Slayer instrumentation inspired thrash that they end up putting the second half of the song just puts it to a whole new level. Overall, with Ashes of the Modern World, I have to say this to Apocalyptica, well done. Second song on the album was a song called Cello. So this is the titular song on the album. It is the longest song on the album that's right about 10 minutes long. And the intro starts out very slow using that consistent cello note over beats 1 and 3. So you're definitely going to get the drumming for the beats 1 and 3, but the consistent cello note overplays it. And it creates a suspenseful build to the low tone electric guitar response. So I'm like, okay, so you're building towards something, but I'm not necessarily sure what, especially if you're going to go for a full 10 minutes. Then under a minute and a half in, the pace picks up with the inclusion of the overall drums. And this really gives it an epic feel. And the inclusion of violin in this one also makes it sound like, I'm going to say this, like a classic movie epic fight song. And I'm trying to think of the perfect example like I would use it, but it's like, basically it's, or like a classic video game fight song. Like think, like Gears of War, it's like, that's what it felt like, like especially, Gears of War, I'd say Gears, maybe Gears 2 or Gears, it's one, like one of the boss scenes. I think I'd go with Gears 2 at the end. When the Brumak is when after you blow up the Brumak and you hear Si Jacinto sing, that'd probably be like the best comparison I can make to it. And my buddy and I, the guy that is my roommate now, my best friend, when we were kids, I mean, this is like, I say teens, you're like 14, 15, 16 years old, and we'd play Super Smash Bros. Brawl. We'd always look up this like epic music, and we'd always play a bunch of music that sounded very similar to what Apocalyptica does on cello during our, Super Smash Bros. Battle, because it just made it so much more intense, so much more epic, and I really got the feel here. It's all driven by the strings on this one, as they provide that classical fight song layer feel to it, but oh my lord, did it give me the feels right there. I'm like, now this is something I was really hoping for. Now, after about 4 minutes in, this guitar comes in with a more prominent force in the song, and it gives the song more of that charged, intense feel overall. Kind of with like an Iron Maiden epicness attached to it overall. Creates that intense experience for the song, and I thought, you know what? This is something that's definitely there. Now, again, I have to really bring up the drumming on this song. That's probably the one I have to bring up the most. It's rather simplistic, but it is really needed during those times to let the other instruments shine as it transitions in the song. Different drum fills end up driving that transition. Overall, this one's long. Trust me, it's long, but it reminds me of that epic Super Smash Bros. Battles, or those epic Super Smash Bros. Battles that I used to have with my best friend. And it was like from the start with a slow build, and it just kept going from there. Like you're in the fight for your lives. Bring back those great memories. Really enjoyed it. Let's go to Rise. Rise was a single off the album. It was number 3. And it starts out with a much more hopeful tone to it. When I first heard it, I thought, it's like, oh, I woke up on a summer day and today's gonna be my day. Like it had that kind of feel. But then I'm like, this is like feeling like, waking up on your wedding day type feel. This is the absolute antithesis of Mash of the Modern World. They're completely different. It brings in a higher pitched tone on the notes that the strings hit, especially the cellos, makes it more sound like that wedding style song, that hopeful, inspired song. And it continues on with that more optimistic style. And I thought about this like, if I ever get married and I'm in a church or something, and I want this song. I want Rise by Apocalyptica playing right before, my bride would walk in. You hear dun 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 dun, dun like something like that, because this song is perfect for it. Now, given the title, it makes sense. It is more an uplifting track. And the one thing I really didn't care for this song was like, this is definitely a song where they could have used a vocal cover or vocal feature, because I was thinking, what artist or what band could really put together something where you add the vocals on there and their vocals just add to that inspiring sound or that hopeful sound? I thought, you know what? This is one where they definitely should have had a vocal feature on there. And if it was going to be anyone, it's got to be from John Cooper or Jen Ledger, or both, again, from Skillet, because with what Skillet did on the Victorious album, like, this fits in perfectly with that hopeful style. So I'm really down for it. Overall, the musicianship on this song is one that really works well in lifting up your spirits and giving you hope for the future. And when I said about that thing about, playing this before, the Here Comes the Bride song, I'm being dead serious. All right, number 4, last single, En Route to Mayhem. Dun, 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 dun. So it sounds with a more mysterious tone. Like, sounds like it's got a more mysterious tone, especially at the start. Kind of like I walked into like a temple level of an old like Rareware N64 game. So I'm thinking like Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64, or maybe like go back to Sony PlayStation with Crash Bandicoot to kind of give you an idea of like, okay, those like classic like temple levels. That's what it felt like at the beginning. And it was brought into the fold with a lower tone from the cellos, but not nearly as low as Ashes to the Modern World came, but it had this more haunting feel to it. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this. Let's see what happens. After the first minute, we get a transition to the drum fill that brings in the heavier guitar, all while keeping the cellos at the same tone. And I kind of wish they would have changed the cellos up a little bit and the sound to better match lower notes hit by the guitar and the drums. But that contrast, I still liked it though nonetheless. I thought they could have just changed it up a little bit more to make it even better. Halfway through the song, it begins to speed up as the drumming and the guitar work becomes more like a heavy metal sound, and the cellos become more of a symphonic force behind the drumming and the guitar. And I like how they change it up here, because they let the cellos be the backbone to it and let the others be the more prominent force. And it does give an overall feel of impending mayhem, but overall, it is kind of lacking in that area, because in my opinion, those higher pitched notes that are matched in the second half between the guitar and the cellos feel like they don't harmonize to the best of their ability. It just has a lack of bite, especially when I'm feeling that mayhem that could have made it epic. And I didn't really see where the environmental meaning was. It kind of missed the mark, because if they're talking about how the environmental shift could cause mayhem, or they're trying to really get that kind of feel, it doesn't seem like they really created a sound of mayhem that would really stand out on this one. But overall, the way the song was written from the instrumentation was well done. However, the second half's lack of tone and diversity between the guitar and the cellos kind of brings it down. But then again, that's my opinion on it. Number 5, we have the song Call My Name, the shortest track on the album, which is under 4 minutes long. And this was probably my least favorite one on the track. So it starts out with this prominent drumming from the bass drums. And even with the cellos, it gives the song a real primal feeling to start out the song, giving it like you're going back to your roots. Kind of like, we're all from the same environmental roots. So I'm like, okay, I like where this is going. The strings pretty much end up staying more reserved in the first half, and they begin to pick up the pace in the second half. But it doesn't mix well with that primal drumming at first. It does show flashes in the pan when they do a couple of transitions here and there. But those are the only flashes in the pan that I really see on this song and that kind of end. I really don't have much more to say about it. If they're going back to the roots, they're going more basic. The less is more. They did achieve by going basic, but I don't think they really did the less is more really well, because they failed when it came to matching the other 4 songs on top of it. The drumming towards the end, though, they kind of let the drummer have his little own solo, which really ups the profile of the song. That was a saving grace from it, but otherwise, I'm not a big fan of Call My Name. Fire and Ice was a song that I was very predicted of, where I was like, okay, Fire and Ice, we're going to get 2 different completely style songs. It starts out with more of this ancient drumming, and then it mixes the use of the pan flute. Yep, I said pan flute. I really like the start of it because it gives that primal sound that Call My Name did, but this one has its like ends up like sounding like to be more experimental, especially because they have the pan flute in there. And also I'm like, okay, this has got to end up getting intense, because it's kind of soft, kind of really more laid back in the start. It's like, fire and ice, we're getting the ice first, then we're going to get the fire next. I'm like, oh my lord. The strings end up taking over the pan flute for the first minute. Like, they kind of just take over for it. I'm like, you know what? This ain't bad. I was worried they weren't going to make any changes to the song at this time. Because, again, it's a good start to it, but as it goes on, it's like, okay, change now, where's the change? And when they did it about a minute in, I'm like, okay. Then about 2 minutes in, halfway through, the drumming comes in the song, and you begin to sense that kind of change happen. I'm like, oh yeah. This happens, they bring that electric guitar, and it literally shreds Metallica-style thrash metal. Creates this overall feeling like you're absolutely going through hell, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This took a great frickin' turn. I am here for it. This is amazing. So overall, this song is the perfect contrast between that more light playing style that Apocalyptica can do with that mix of a symphonic metal and, like some really soft stuff, but then mixing symphonic metal and thrash metal all in one. Contrast is great and works perfectly. Up next, we have song number 7, which is Scream for the Silent. So, Scream for the Silent. Well, you see what I did there? Oh, yeah. Giggity. Okay, I'm probably going to get copyrighted for that, but I probably won't. So, Scream for the Silent starts out with this more melancholic feel from the strings that then moves into a more pulse-pounding epic sound as the drum comes in. I'm like, okay, this is definitely kind of interesting. It makes sense as if the melancholic feel represents those who are unable to be heard and then picks up the intensity of the scream. So it's like, you can't be heard, so it's melancholic, but then it's like, you got to scream for them, so that's where it really kind of picks up intensity from the melancholic feel. I'm like, okay. Now, as I'm waiting for the song to increase the scream, it cycles through a more melancholic and harder as it goes on. So it kind of cycles through more of that melancholic style. But it all depends upon where the drums come in. If the drumming is there, we're going to get that symphonic metal style. But then they also have points where the drumming just isn't in there at all. And it'll be more melancholic and orchestral sounding. So overall, the instrumentation, this one, I do enjoy what it brings to the table. But this song would be absolutely nothing without two pieces. The drums drive that symphonic metal style. And I do have to speak about the guitar solo because it sounds like it was inspired by none other than Eddie Van Halen. I thought, yeah, that's awesome. Woo! Alrighty, 2 more songs before we give the final verdict for Cello. Catharsis was number 8. This one starts out that melancholic feel again, but evokes a feeling of like you're being at a funeral because the strings are kept at a lower tone to create a somber feeling for the listener. And like kind of like a death has occurred, we're all in mourning. And it kind of makes sense because catharsis kind of is talking about the purging of a feeling, and we're kind of purging that grief out of us for now, or maybe out of this world. The drums come in about a minute into the song and really take over, giving the song the feeling of energy and change. And it seems like every time, again, the drums are included in the song, they're the driving force behind change, which I found to be very unlike anything else. The drums are kind of, are there to really set the tone or like set the beat and just kind of be the backbone of it, but drive the change. I was not expecting it. Now, after the drums take over and evoke that change, the song seems to be working more with a feeling like we're purging those emotions even more. So I love how the intro into this guitar when it comes in, especially at the end of the song, it really gives the feeling like we finally completed the purging of our emotions. So overall, with Catharsis, what I think about it, I really do like how the song, again, uses the drums to force that kind of change. And I love how, as the song gets harder with the drums and the guitar coming in at the end, they keep the same somber cello notes that are very common, thinking like a World War II movie. So it gives the song this ominous feel to it and this purging of emotion, which I thought was really well done given the instrumentation. On to the last song from Apocalyptica's Cello, which is called Beyond the Stars. And the song starts out using more percussion to give it a feel like you're in space, and then really brings in an intense drum fill and a heavy guitar to create an epic feel. And I thought, okay, it's kind of like as if we're leaving what we once had behind after its destruction, ready to start something new. So it's like, okay, we destroyed that. Let's leave it behind. Let's go to the next thing. But this time the cellos are the force for the change of the song, not the drums. And when the song uses the cellos exclusively, they allow the rest of the song to transition and up the intensity of the drumming and the guitar work. So they are very well at transitioning. And the best way to describe this song overall is that it is the end. I mean, this is a great song to end the album because it changed up about halfway through, leaving out something behind to bringing in guitar work that picks up the intensity like we destroyed it. Rather way to epic end to the album. I really did like it because it kind of ends what we went to and we're going to something new. So overall, again, great end of the album. So many different moving parts. And it had the consistent sense of doom to it. So I'm like, okay. Overall, Apocalyptica's Cello, the 9th studio album, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. And you already went through the good, I went through the bad on each separate song, but this is my overall take on it. Overall, Cello's Apocalyptica was a great album to start the year off on. I was surprised I really enjoyed it as much as I did, because I don't really care for symphonic metal, nor do I really care for a lot of, just purely instrumental songs outside of something like YYZ, because YYZ by Rush. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. However, Apocalyptica being able to use that songwriting ability to invoke so many different emotions in the album and transition them so well in each song is why this album has a lot to offer, despite the fact that there are no vocals in there. And I feel like, you could definitely put a vocal track in here, one or two. But again, I'm still glad they didn't, because it really shows the power that they have behind their songs. From the epic fight feel of Cello to the hopeful joy of Rise, Apocalyptica does one hell of a job in this album and show why so many artists are clamoring to work with them. So Apocalyptica, from a guy that really actually much more enjoys when you feature a different like a featured vocalist on your tracks, I thought this one was a well done job from you guys, especially songs like Ashes of the Modern World and Fire and Ice. So yeah, I was pretty good with it. Okay, so that was Apocalyptica's Cello, the 7.5 out of 10. And now, guys, we've had even more new music come out. And the first one I have to take a look at is Silverstein. So Silverstein, we knew their album, A Beautiful Piece to Drown. Or no, Beautiful Piece? What the hell are you talking about, Kevin? It's called A Beautiful Place to Drown. Is gonna be released on March 6, 2020. So I will be doing an album review on that when it does come out. Now, this is Silverstein, Shane Todd, lead singer, and also runs the Lead Singer Syndrome podcast. So shout out to him as well. But this song, Infinite, features Aaron Gillespie of Under Oath. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens here. Let's give it a listen and let's go from there. And I've got my notepad out here, this old ass notepad, because, well, when I did these, I actually wrote these down. My whole entire Apocalyptica review, I ended up putting that on my computer. So that's what we got there. So Infinite, let's take a look at this one. When I first listened, I'm like, this song is beginning with more of that interesting, like, pop rock alternative intro. And I thought, I'm like, okay, this reminds me of early Imagine Dragons when I actually could, listen to them. I'm talking like the Night Visions album. I'm talking anything else when I think they sold out and really changed their sound to just be pop-centric bass and really kind of just went with that. When they had their real, individualistic sound off of Night Visions, that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, okay. So again, from my perspective, it did end up drawing me in a little bit, just to kind of, not draw me in like I'm hooked, but like I'm curious to see where this goes next. As the song gets into the first verse, the band ends up focusing on more of those like post-hardcore and emo tendencies we know them for, with a mix of like early Imagine Dragons. And I do like the idea of the mix, but after a while, it does get rather tiresome. Like, it makes me want to take a nap. I remember playing this one again. I even though I listened to this one, I was at work at that time. I'm like, okay, let's go through it. And from my full-time job, I'm like, there's times like I just kind of want to fall asleep. But then again, who of us isn't? I'm like, okay, it's kind of starting to put me to sleep. The chorus does try to fix that tiresome feel with a mixture of like clean vocals. And I'm not talking about clean and unclean. I'm talking about different pitches within the clean. But overall, it really doesn't work because it feels like being in like a depressed, drunk state when listening to the song. That's how I got the feeling. I'm like, okay, this is a little interesting. Like, what the heck are we going on here? Aaron Gillespie, again, the drummer for Under Oath and their clean vocals, is featured here. And his second verse, because he's featured in the second verse, gives a little more edge to the song compared to what Shane Todd has done in the first verse and other verses. But it keeps up with that more like, like a drunk and depressed state. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not really feeling this song, especially for a song called Infinite. I'm like, I'm ready to condemn this thing. However, I decided what I definitely have to do for this one is I have to take a look at the lyrics, because something tells me there's going to be so much more to this song. And my God, there was. So I took a look at the lyrics, and like Shane Todd's first verse into the pre-chorus is, I want to breathe like I'm brand new. Why can't I feel like I'm supposed to? Don't you feel the pressure? I do. Tell me this will end soon. My mind's running away. A mile a minute. Can't shake it off. A free fall. I'd give anything to make it stop. How can I feel how can I be an optimist when all this feels? And then infinite. So I'm thinking about, I'm like, they're really trying to go, like, looking at it, it's like, it's talking about, how being in like that dark, depressed state can really seem kind of infinite, and it's really hard to get out of. And I looked at, I'm like, whoa. So they were going for this, and I didn't even realize it, but they really gave me that feeling that this was like a song that was really about like, like being deeper down depression. I'm like, okay, we got something here. And then take a look at Aaron Gillespie's verse. It's, I got to find a way to relate. I drew a line so I could see straight. Erase every lie and half truth. Anything I wanted to. And I'm like, okay. This is interesting. So the lyrics do paint that picture of depression that cannot be shook. And no matter what you do, it just leaves you feeling defeated and wondering if that suffering is infinite. And again, like I said earlier, it makes sense why the song feels that way. And I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. And when I said like drunk depression, I'm thinking drunk because, alcohol is a depressant. So it kind of puts you in that haze and depression because, that is basically the topic. So overall, this song seems to put you off right away, in my opinion. However, when connecting the message with the music, especially within the lyrics, I'm like, okay, the music and the lyrics actually work incredibly well with each other. Taking a look at what they've released so far, I don't think it's as good as Burn It Down, the single that they first released off of the A Beautiful Place to Drown album. Mostly because that one definitely had more drive to it, and especially with its message. And the fact they featured Caleb Shomo of Beartooth on it, it just elevates the song overall. Again, the new album, Beautiful Place to Drown, will drop on March 6th from Silverstein, and you better believe we will be reviewing it. On to the next track, and this one I was very excited for because this is off of Breaking Benjamin's Aurora album. So this is their acoustic album. Let me pull up the whole entire thing, make sure I get everything right. And they dropped the acoustic Aurora version of probably my favorite Breaking Benjamin song of all time, which came out in 2018 off their Ember album. It is Red Cold River. And this one, again, had another vocalist featured on here with Spencer Chamberlain of Under Oath. So I just talked about one with Aaron Gillespie of Under Oath, and I'm talking about one with Spencer Chamberlain of Under Oath? What are we doing out here? So, okay, Red Cold River, let's go into it. I got to speak about the regular version first. Again, like I said, this is my favorite Breaking Benjamin song of all time because I really liked the regular version when it came out in 2018. I still remember I was up in Minnesota visiting my friends. This was a week before the Super Bowl that actually was being played up in Minneapolis, even though the Vikings weren't playing in it. But whatever. I remember I was going to take a shower and I wanted to listen to some music, and I saw that Breaking Benjamin had some new music, and I played it, and it was Red Cold River, and I was just hooked right away because it had a quality mixture of low intensity like feels, especially from Ben Burley's, and the high intensity screams, and Ben's screams in the chorus were amazing in this one. I absolutely love this song. Now I listened to the acoustic version, and it just doesn't nearly hit as well. The acoustic guitar has follows the exact same line that the electric guitar does in the beginning, and the drums don't change up anywhere at all, especially in the intensity. Like if you listen to the original version of Red Cold River and the Aurora version of Red Cold River, the drum is the exact same, which really got me messed up because I'm like, this doesn't match well at all with the acoustic version when you're playing like an acoustic guitar, very melancholic like, and you get the double kick on the bass drum. I thought this just doesn't really add up. Something doesn't feel right about this one. Now, if I want to compare this to anything and kind of give you my comparison on why I'm not the biggest fan of this song, let's take a look at what Rise Against It with the Ghost Note Symphonies album when they did Savior. So Savior is their most popular song. They took that one and turned many aspects of it around. So they changed up the pace. They changed up a little bit of how it sounded. They didn't just go like straight like electric guitar or acoustic guitars. They brought in some other instruments there. It still has that same intensity and still hits with that kind of style. And it's Savior by Rise Against, but it just has a different sound to it that's really more melancholic. And I absolutely love what they did there. Where Breaking Benjamin failed to do this specifically by not softening up those drums at all. It kind of sounds like the song needs to be unleashed, but it isn't. And I was ready, again, to condemn this song. However, what do I always got to bring in these howevers? The biggest key of the song after you listen to it, and it took me a while to really get this down, the biggest saving grace of the song is Spencer Chamberlain's vocals. Now, Spencer Chamberlain actually uses clean vocals on a lot of these, which really got me, thinking, oh, okay, let's see what he does here. And the reason why he's the savior of the song, because his vocals soften the blow, again, with those clean vocals. And it works well in the contrast with Ben's softer vocals, because Ben softens his, but he tries to match the intensity of the original, where Spencer kind of just does his own thing, and it works out incredibly well. And it looks like I'm getting a phone call from my mommy, but I will be answering that once we are done with the podcast episode. So again, going back to Red Cold River, the Aurora version by Breaking Benjamin, it just again, Spencer Chamberlain's vocals end up softening the blow that Ben Burnley's vocals are trying to deliver in an acoustic set, and the mixture works well, but it took me a few listens to get there. So overall, this is definitely out of the Roar version acoustic songs from Breaking Benjamin. Red Cold River is not one of the better ones. It does take a few listens to get into though, and that's Chamberlain Burnley mix does work well on it. Two things before we get to the next one. I do really like their reworking of Far Away. See, what they did with Far Away, it is a fantastic song. It sounds like it belongs directly on Dark Before Dawn. I'm a huge fan of it. I love what Ben Burnley and the guys are there because they did what I was hoping for with kind of like what Rise Against with the Ghost Note Symphonies, where they took a song, they kept it, but then reworked it, made it sound completely acoustic, and just given it a more, like, a different feeling to it, but not changing it up. So it's a song that's going to be acoustic, but hits you in a much different way, and I was hoping that Breaking Benjamin was going to do that. They did that on Far Away. They did not do that on So Cold or Red Cold River, but I am very excited to see when this album comes out in 2 weeks in full, to basically hear what one feature is, and that's going to be the one where that features Lacey Sturm. I cannot wait to see the difference in contrasting vocal styles between Lacey Sturm and Ben Burnley. Now we're going to go on to the band we will be going deep into next week, because their album 2020 Vision comes out next week, and that is the punk band Anti-Flag. Now, you guys know me, you know I like punk rock, you know I like Anti-Flag, because punk rock, they got that raw sound to it compared to like a couple of my favorite band, Rise Against, and Against Me. And they kind of sound, it's like, you got Rise Against and Against Me on one tier on the top, and then you've got Pennywise and Anti-Flag. Like, so if you look at the video, like this is where, like, the level of where Against Me and Rise Against are right here. It's like they've got a more refined sound to them. Then there's this Pennywise and Anti-Flag, where they're basically on the same tier, but they're just off to the side over here because they got that raw sound, but they're both on the same level. So I absolutely enjoy it. Now, they came out with their fourth single from 2020 Vision called The Disease. And it starts out with a chanting style from Justin saying that they are the disease. It's clearly correlated with politics, as it is always with Anti-Flag. I mean, take a look at the album cover. It's got Donald Trump right on it. And they say they are the disease to take down the current establishment. So kind of like, the disease, the current establishment is the body, and they're the disease like the flu. The instrumentation on this one, I kind of thought it was a little bit subpar. But this isn't saying, it's subpar overall. I'm comparing it to the other singles that they've already come out with, like Hate Conquers All, like Unbreakable. And the reason why I thought it was subpar, because it had this crisper, cleaner sound than what we're used to from Anti-Flag. And again, I'm not mad that they went with a crisper, cleaner sound, but it just takes away from the song overall, as it lacks the emotion overall compared to the others that we have given, especially with Hate Conquers All and Unbreakable, my friend. I mean, listen to Hate Conquers All. I mean, that's just raw emotion going right at it. And it's used to such perfection, and The Disease, I just think, really lacks that overall. Now, the use of unclean vocals in the bridge is where this song absolutely shines, because it brings back that raw emotion like I was talking about, that, from like what it's overall been, like a slower chanting song. And I thought, you know what? Given what Anti-Flag can do, when they go with that, raw or punk sound, and I'm talking about stuff like, This Is the End for You, My Friend, when they go with the Press Corps, I do like the Criminals as well, Broken Bones, that's when they're going, or, you're gonna die for your government. Like, when they go with stuff like that, they really, really, really shine. And, like, they shine on Unbreakable with something like this too, and Hate Conquers All. So, taking a look at Anti-Flag's lead, overall, I rank it third out of the 4 singles so far. Top being Unbreakable, second being Hate Conquers All, third being Disease, fourth being Christian Nationalist. Because it just goes with a more cleaner sound mixed in with that unclean bridge. It just doesn't overall work well. Now, don't worry. I am still really looking forward to this release next week. Or I should say this week on the 17th. And of course, I hope we see more stuff like Hate Conquers All and Unbreakable. I really hope we see more tracks that have that raw emotion style to them. The other thing I hope we get a song like This Is the End for You, My Friend, where Chris number 2, the bassist, is going to be singing on the track, or is going to be the primary vocalist on that track, which is something I really, 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 really do like. So that's it for Anti-Flag. We will talk a lot more about Anti-Flag next week, and during that episode, I should have the Anti-Flag, which I call the Anti-Flag curse shirt on there, and you guys heard my story about why I think that shirt is cursed. We got a couple more songs to go through. I think we got 4. Yeah, I got 4 more left. So we had another new single from one of my favorite bands of all time, Hollywood Undead. Their album New Empire Volume 1 coming out on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Yes, I will be reviewing it. Dropped their 3rd single called Empire. So I listened to it on a walk through a park after I dropped my car off at an auto body shop to get O2 sensors fixed, which cost me $500. So this song starts out like a rather solid hard rock track. I was really interested. And then they have these chants of Empire followed by an instrumental intro to headbang to. I'm like, this is a great mixture of guitar and drum work here. I am loving the start of this song. I'm loving where it's going to go. And let's see how it unfolds. At this point, I am excited. But once the vocals started, I was like, what are you guys doing? So this is what I mean. Hollywood Undead goes with their classic rap rock style, which I'm glad they did. I'm really glad they did that because I want to see them, at least bring back some of the stuff they had, like on American Tragedy, like on Swan Songs, like when they really go rough with it, like taking a look at, Day of the Dead, and songs like California Dreamin'. Now, Notes from the Underground was a little bit different, but I absolutely love Notes from the Underground because it hits so many more emotional ties. But I was hoping we really go with that rap rock style. I mean, Hear Me Now is where I was like, I hope they go with something like that, especially after that kind of an intro. But they mix auto-tune with the vocals that really kind of takes me out of the song. I thought, again, this is in the verse. I was like, guys, not good. But the other thing I really like was they really pulled back the instrumentals in the verse and it hampers the song's power versus you take a look at the bridge. Now in the bridge, they really have the instrumentals and the vocals working at full force and that works out incredibly well. But for most of the verses, it's like, as you hear, it's more of just, it's not really rap rock. It's more like they're trying to really focus on the rap. It's like, you got to mix the two together because that would have made it so much better. Now, of course, Danny is the vocalist that's primarily doing every single chorus ever since American Tragedy. And of course, I had to listen to it and that failed to meet my expectations. So the reason why I say that is because from what we know from Danny, from American Tragedy, from Notes from the Underground, from Day of the Dead, and from 5, what he's got his own sound to him in the chorus. It's kind of like, I kind of think it's like, it's kind of got like that higher pitch style, like in Kellen Quinn and Vic Fuentes, but it has more of like a calming bite to it as well, like a more like classic rock style bite to it. And it just works out incredibly well. I'm like, you got to stick with that. But I was, thinking like, okay, you got to go something like you did on American Tragedy here. But here, he kind of just goes more like what if Kellen Quinn was going to be featured on this track doing the chorus. I don't necessarily have a problem with that kind of sound, but it's just when Danny has his own sound that really mixes with the overall Hollywood Undead style sound. I just wish he would have stuck to the basics here. Overall, Empire is a single. Kind of thought it was disappointing because the verses that were constructed just didn't sit well compared to the bridge, and it would have been more powerful if Danny just stuck to what he was best to. So shall we go to the next one? Yes, we shall. Next one. Now, they had teased this on the Chord Progression podcast. They had teased new music in 2020. And the second Friday of 2020, we get something from the girls of Gold, Frankincense Myrrh. They released their single, I Don't Need Your Fantasy, and of course, had to listen to it. You guys saw me post a story on Instagram about this one to say, go listen to it, and you will now find out why I said that. So it kind of starts out like we're going to get another rapid pace GFM song. Kind of like, we're going to get something like Give Me a Sign from them. And Give Me a Sign is probably, might be their most popular song. I think my favorite might be Never Again from them. But Give Me a Sign is also one of those songs I'm like, okay, I really like this song. Like, I like the start of it. We're definitely going to get that classic GFM sound. But then they end up using more of a raw sounding instrumentation, especially within that drumming, that primitive drumming style, and more of the electric guitar, that raw sound. And it gives it more of a punk rock feel, like they're mixing their beautycore style with punk rock. Which, honestly, when I saw this, I absolutely love this. I love to see the girls experimenting by blending their signature sound that they have created and, seeing what they can blend it with. Let's take our core sound and blend it with pop punk like they did on Give Me a Sign. Let's blend it with more of a metalcore style like Never Again, or more of a, hard rock metal style. And then with I Don't Need Your Fantasy, let's blend it in with straight punk rock, and I am all here for it. The instrumentals absolutely shine on this track. Especially when they pull this out, especially in the breakdown. You have to listen to the breakdowns. They go full metalcore. So they're bringing in all these different pieces, all these different other influences to mix with their beautycore sound, and it works wonders for them here. The vocal change up in the song works as well because you have that punk beautycore mix as well. So they do focus on some of the clean vocals, and the clean vocals are meant to really get the message across of the song, which we'll go into very shortly. And the unclean vocals they use here, I love it because it helps get that emotional punk rock anger across. I mean, it wouldn't be, I'll put it this way, if they didn't put the unclean vocals in there, that anger might have been lost, but I'm glad they did because it really just puts in the overall emotion of the song into the forefront. Now, I absolutely love the message that GFM puts out on this track. I Don't Need Your Fantasy. I was listening to the lyrics trying to get down, and my take on it was, this song is all about not telling you and going off on saying not to follow anyone's idea of your life. So don't follow anyone else's plan of your life or anyone else's fantasy that they've created that you need to follow and tell you how to live your life. If you listen at me you probably heard me say about this because Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this a lot, serial entrepreneur guy. Absolutely love his stuff. And he talks about this in full, and I'm all here for it because, if you're going to have someone else dictate how to live your life, are you really ever going to be happy? You're kind of just a robot at that point. And I love the fact that GFM is we're going to do things our own way. We're going to live the life that we are going to live. And if you don't like it, then tough. It's kind of like the lead, follow, get out of the way. It's like, we're going to lead this and you have two choices. One, you can get behind us and be a part of this great experience. Or if you're not, just get out of the way and let us do our thing. And I absolutely love that. And I've got a feeling that this message has to come from experience because, again, this is something that we've all gone through in life, whether it's from people with, their parents, where your parents might want, or, you might want you to be something. So, say you're in high school and your parents are like, okay, you're going to college, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be an engineer. Like, they have your life mapped out for you, but that's not what you want to do. This song is basically saying, I don't need to do what your vision of my life wants me to do. No, I'm not I don't want your fantasy. I don't want it. I want to do things my own way. And I think the girls may have gone through something like that with some other pressures. I know not from their parents because their parents have been very supportive of them, as they have told me. And we've heard on the Chord Progression podcast as well when we've interviewed them. So I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I feel like this is coming from some sort of experience because everyone's gone through this in life at one point. And I like the fact they made a song like that. Overall, I love the genre blend they did here with their beautycore style and mixing in that raw punk rock energy that, I'm a fan of that punk rock energy. Really, really, really like it. And GFM's about to have a big 2020. This song is a good start to it. Love it, girls. Fantastic. Absolutely love it. Now, on Friday the 10th, so when all this was happening, we had one band announce that they're going to be releasing a new album on February 21st, and that is The Word Alive, their album Monomania, coming out on February 21st. And what excites me about this one is two things. One, again, now I got an album review on the 21st February. So my February is all booked up with albums to review. I've got Green Day, Hollywood Undead, The Word Alive, and Five Finger Death Punch. But the day after this album gets released, Monomania, I'll be seeing The Word Alive open for Escape the Fate, who's opening for Falling in Reverse. Now this is going to be awesome, especially when they got new music. Oh yeah. So, let's take a look at The Word Alive, their lead single, Monomania. It kind of has an intro similar to Roots by In This Moment, which I thought, this is definitely something. But then the first verse, it sounds like, the prog metal group Issues. I'm like, okay, so you're definitely kind of working with something here. I don't know what, but you're working with something. The song kind of does have that prog metal feel to it and a futuristic feel to it. I'm like, okay, you're definitely blending some kind of stuff here. interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of how it overall sounded at that point, but I listened to the vocals. They kept it clean with a more muzzled sound in the verses and like a more clean sound in the chorus, but it really adds the futuristic feel until the breakdown, where the breakdown gives us the unclean vocals, but with the slower and more futuristic feel. It just doesn't work well together, where you're getting that more clean, classic, hard rock feel that the We're Live can go with in the chorus, in the verses, but then the chorus has that, more primal, futuristic feel. I'm like, it just didn't really mix well the way they wrote it, in my opinion. The song is all about obsession over one thing, but when they bounce around between prog metal, the Roots intro by in this moment, like kind of like that kind of style, and then prog metal, something more futuristic sounding. I'm like, you're not really focusing on one thing. So again, I'm just kind of curious where the message is coming from here. Overall, I just think it was the best outing from the Word Alive as a song. Just for me, it was just kind of there. It just wasn't really big. It was just kind of there. However, there was a second song that they came out with also on the same day. So their second single, "Burning Your World Down." I'm like, okay, let's listen to this one, and let's see if I think it's better than Monomania. And this song about reaching that breaking point in life where you take action against a sedentary, mundane, and repetitive lifestyle, which I am all for. It's where you're reaching the point where you're doing the same thing. You're waking up, you're going to work, you're coming home, you're sitting around watching Netflix, maybe doing something that going to Applebee's, and then you're falling asleep and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's a mundane, repetitive life, and you can offer more to yourself. You can do more for yourself and do more for the world, and you get to that breaking point where it's like, I don't have to take this anymore. I don't have to be a part of this mundane, repetitive lifestyle, and I want to change it. This is what the song is all about, and let's see if it fits, because the song starts out with more of a hard rock style anthem. The drumming in the first verse, absolutely superb, as the other instruments really go silent, and this drumming just keeps the drive going. It does this in the chorus as well, and I absolutely love it, because you guys know me, I am a sucker for the drums, because I used to be a drummer as a kid, so absolutely love it. The guitar work centers around this consistency, keeping the drive of the song going, which matches the feeling of the message, where when you hit that breaking point, you want to do something better with life, go and do it, but don't relent, don't give up. It's gonna be hard at points, and this song, the feeling of it, especially through the drumming and the guitar work, really files in that mantra and just fits it in there. Vocals bring forward the feeling of hitting that breaking point with this consistent pitch changes. So it's like, okay, you're not really sure what's going on. If you're hitting the break point, yes, no, but the consistent changing in the pitch of the vocals, it really gives you that, this is not what I want to be doing. I hit that breaking point, now I got to focus on my own thing. Really do enjoy it, because it uses a different higher and lower pitch, and it hits like what it feels like to be at that breaking point. Overall, between the two singles, I actually really like Burning Your World Down. Looking forward to seeing what Monomania has to offer when it comes out on February 21st. So, guys, I just went through like 50 minutes talking about all these different songs, all this different music, and I really don't want to talk about new music for the rest of the podcast. So, this is going to be my final take for the day before I sign off and send you on your merry way. This one actually might be a little bit longer, because unfortunately, on Friday, January 10th, 2020, the world lost the greatest drummer of all time following a 3.5-year battle with brain cancer. Neil Peart, drummer for Rush, the greatest drummer of all time, passed away. And you see a lot of people out online, especially from the rock and metal community, just showing their love and support and talking about how much Neil Peart meant to them. And I'm gonna do the same right now, because I got two pieces I really want to go into with Neil Peart. So one is, when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, I got my first drum kit. On my 10th birthday, I opened the door to my bedroom door, and there was like this string going from my room all the way down to the basement. I followed the string, and it was attached to a green, simple Union drum kit with 2 toms, a floor tom, a bass drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat, and 1 crash cymbal. I didn't have a ride cymbal, because this is very simple. Again, I was stoked. And I was trying to learn to play some songs, and one drummer I always ended up watching play us like on YouTube once, YouTube became a thing, was Rush. I always liked to watch Neil Peart because of how intricate everything was. And it literally looked like every single time you watch Neil Peart perform, I would say it did look like, he's trying, but because he's doing so many different things and he's hitting them with absolute precision. I remember playing Guitar Hero again. This is Guitar Hero 2, because YYZ was on there, or YYZ for everybody. And when you listen to YYZ, especially on playing guitar, you're playing it on guitar. But I always love to hear like what Neil Peart was doing on the drums at that point. My dad has seen Rush. I always thought it was a total of 13 times. No, my dad has seen Rush a total of 9 times. And I always wanted to break that record, and I'm tied with that record now as I've seen Rise Against 9 times. And we're going to go for 10 in 2020, so I'm going to go and break that record. But he always was talking about Neil Peart as well whenever we were talking about drummers, because he grew up in the 70s. His musical prowess became prominent in the 70s and the 80s. So he likes a lot of that stuff. And when it was drummers, one thing that was always consistent was he always thought that Neil Peart was the best drummer. Now, again, as time went on, I was watching other drummers. My brother even thinks that Neil Peart is the best drummer. As I kept going on, I could not find a better drummer than Neil Peart to watch. And I enjoyed it so much. Now, fast forward, I believe I'm going to go to 2013. Now, I stopped drumming back in 2009 or 10. I believe it was 2010. And the reason was because I knew I wasn't going to be able to I knew I wasn't going to be happy if I tried to play soccer and do drum and drum at the same time. So I get one or the other, and because I was a bigger soccer kid at that point, I wanted to play soccer. So that's where I went with that one. So I kind of gave up drumming. It was Summerfest 2013. And God, that was the Imagine Dragons year where they pretty much they had to just let fans in that weren't, giving them tickets or paying because of how many people were there. But this was, I think, a couple days beforehand. This might have been on July 3rd. I don't remember what day it was. Or July 5th. I don't remember what day it was, though. Exactly. It was 2013. I know that. And my uncle was able to get my brother 4 tickets at the amphitheater to see Rush. And my brother it was him. He invited 2 of his friends that went to Marquette University. And then he took me along with him. And I got to see Neil Peart live. But before we get to that, we stopped at his buddy's house on Marquette's campus. And the 4 of us, we walked down there. And by the time we got down there, his buddy Ryan lost his Rush ticket. From the time we picked him up at Will Call to the time we got to the gate. It was 100 feet away, and we only stopped, and we ended up stopping at the bathroom before we walked in. He lost his ticket in the span of 2 minutes. So, needless to say, he didn't find it. He didn't get to go see Rush. So it was me, my brother's friend Grady, and myself. Now, this was when they were on the Clockwork Angels tour. And I still remember it because we were sitting about maybe 13th or 14th row from the front. And, of course, Rush comes out. And you get Geddy Lee, you get Alex Lifeson, and you get Leifson. I know we'll pronounce it right on one of those. But then you get Neil Peart as well. And, of course, you're watching Geddy Lee up there. You're watching Alex Leifson. But most of the time, I'm just centered on what Neil Peart is doing. Because I thought of this I always was, I still had the drumming tendencies in me. I still wanted to do it, but I was so much more into, sports at that point. And I was just watching Neil Peart pretty much 90% of the time. Watching what he was doing. Just taking it all in and just thinking, when it comes to drumming, the master of all of it is right there performing. I mean, how can you beat that? It was something that really just completely took me away. The fact of the matter was, take a look at how big the guy's kit is. Or not, how it was, unfortunately. But, take a look at how big the kit ends up being. This thing is a mammoth. The fact of the matter is, I don't understand how anyone can play a kit that large. And play it with such precision. But I was watching Neil Peart, and it literally looked like he was not having any problems at all. I thought, you know what? I'm witnessing the greatest drummer of all time. Sure, you're not at your peak. You're not, in the 80s or anything. But take a look at, this is 2013. And I'm watching the greatest drummer of all time perform, and he is still kicking ass against every other drummer. I mean, he had been about 60 at that point then. But I just thought, wow. It's just utterly amazing. And that was actually the only time I ever got to meet my brother's friend Grady. Because Grady ended up drowning about a little over a month and a half later. And the crazy thing is how cool that Rush concert was. I've never spoken to my brother about it since the day. And it's all because of, just because I just think it's that thing with his friend. Because he was there when his friend went underwater. I'm kind of sorry if it just took a weird turn here on the Chord Progression podcast, but basically, it's something I've kind of always wanted to talk to my brother about, was that Rush concert, because of the thing I remember from the most was just watching the master that is Neil Peart at work. And I kind of wish I would have kept up drumming, guys. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love soccer. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely still love soccer with a burning passion. There's nothing that's going to take that away. However, in the end, man, I really wish I still did drum. Because when I was in high school, I didn't have any friends really up until my best friend from when I was a kid and I became best friends again. This is our junior year, end of our junior year. That was 3 years where pretty much it was, if the only thing, like in high school, I played soccer, and then at night, and in the weekends, I just spent time in the basement. I could have done so much more with a drum kit, but of course, no. So, couple things I want to I'll wrap it up with this. Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time, and we'll miss him dearly, but we are thankful for the 45 plus years of music and greatness that was put upon us from the one and only Neil Peart. And if you feel like it, if you're doing something, it's like, you really want to get back in music, pick up a pair of sticks, pick up a guitar, pick up a keyboard, pick up a bass guitar, pick up something, whatever it might be. You never know how it's going to affect your life. And on that note, we're going to end this episode of the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Sunday Rock 2000 Day. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. We went through a lot of new music, and of course, talked about Neil Peart as well. Rest in peace, Neil Peart. You'll forever be missed. Next week, we'll be talking about none other than 2020 Vision from Anti-Flag. Maybe we'll get someone else to talk about Anti-Flag with us. We'll see. Until then, thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Sunday Rock 2000 today. My name is Kevin, as you guys very well know. And you guys know I end all my episodes. It's no secret.